So, welcome, Stefan. You are known as the holistic BA, and the first question from my side would be why holistic BA? What is holistic business analysis about?
Well, yeah. Well. First, you hear business analysis. What is business analysis, and what is holistic? You get the definition in the Babok. What is business analysis? I tend to like it more from instead of using very complicated words and so on. I prefer to go like, what does a BA? What's the output? What's the outcome? What's the output? So I would more talk about the core purpose of business analysis, and I consider that the goal of business analysis being to facilitate and or co-create better business outcomes. We always co-create because if we have a nice solution and the business doesn't use it, then no value is created. So I would call it more co-create better business outcomes. That's for me what business analysis is. And then the holistic aspect. I don't know if you know where holism comes from. It comes from the Greek word holos, which means all, whole, entire. And it is in fact the concept that systems, physical, biological, chemical, social, economical, and so on, should be viewed as wholes, but not just as a collection of its parts. I always give the metaphor like if you look at your car and they talk, what's with your car? Well, I've got a great thing which gets an engine and a steering wheel and seats and a fuel tank or batteries. And no, you look at it as a car, but at the same time, you're very well aware it's got a steering wheel, an engine, batteries or a fuel tank, because if you don't charge it or fill it up, you won't be driving for a long time. And so we are doing a lot of holistic stuff in our day-to-day work, like for example with the car. But in the BA world, people tend to forget that we do have some holistic mindsets in our brains, most of us, but we use it selectively. And for example, if as a BA you work in an organization, you should see that organization as a whole and not only as a collection of employees, business domains, customers, processes, systems, change initiatives, and so on. It's both. So each time you're doing something as a BA, what is the impact on the whole organization? And with extent, the external stakeholders that we are in touch with, or what is also the impact in the other parts of the organization. So holism is pretty big, but I think as a BA, you should be aware. It doesn't mean that you have to do all the analysis of the whole organization, but you should be aware on what the impact of your work is on the whole organization with external stakeholders you interact with and the rest of the whole organization and the other parts of the organization.
And also the
Yeah.
context, I believe, yeah, the external part of
Yes, a
yes.
context diagram perfectly. If you look at the context diagram, you've got this circle and then you get the adjacent systems. Well, the horizon of holism is if you work inside of an organization as a BA, is the context diagram and your neighboring systems or stakeholders. That's your horizon. If, for example, and that's maybe off topic, but if you look at sustainability, you even go further because you take into consideration the whole world, all these inhabitants, the planet, and so on. But it's even holism on steroids, kind of. Yeah.
And the question, what was the reason that you started talking about, well, the need of holistic approach in business analysis? Because there was a reason, right?
Well, yes. And in fact, first of all, I've been in touch with the concept holistic, already for many decades because I went to doctors or medical people that had a holistic view. So that's the first part that holistic appeared in my knowledge within the medical science, because you go to a specialist, a heart surgeon or a heart, and they don't see the whole thing. And I've experienced in my life that sometimes if I get a real sore throat and get a very weird or strong infection, I do have pain in my back. and some holistic therapist says like, yeah, well, it makes sense, and so on and so on and so on. So I've been in confronted with holism already for many decades. But when I gave my first presentation, which the title was, and that was in London, the first time I gave this presentation on holistic business was to a wide audience. It was in the London conference, which is always in September, the BA conference. And it was called BA, Keeping the Overview and Connecting the Dots. And I did know the concept holism already for many decades. And the thing is, someone said afterwards, like, that's a very holistic approach. So like, why did I use this big title? Why didn't I use it, the holistic business analysis? So yeah, that's how it originated.
Mhm. And why do you think it is important for BA to have this holistic view? Maybe this is, a trivial question, but I know that this is
No,
not
no,
as
no.
obvious, yeah?
I appreciate the question. No. It's a very important question. I'm even more. I think holistic mindset, the holistic mindset should be part of the DNA of a business analyst. I think it's so important because so often we do very well. A lot of BAs, they do a lot of stuff in silos. They do things and they work out solutions or processes and not always taking the step back and having the overview where it has the impact on the whole organization or maybe other parts or other people. And everything is tied together. And I think as a BA, you should be very well aware of that and master it.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise we can focus only on one area without understanding the impact. And the value delivered is the value perceived from one perspective and something that can break the rest of the organization. Yeah, and this is not what we want.
No, exactly.
Okay, so we agreed, yeah, that the holistic view is something that is a kind of must-have for business analysts in order to provide something that will be really valuable, that will really help and consider all the factors, internal, external factors affecting the organization. How do you feel how it is currently covered by different sources of knowledge?
I think it could be more, but let me start again with the bubble guide because in my presentation I do mention quite a lot of stuff in the bubble guide, which is the holistic aspect of the bubble guide is specifically mentioned in the chapter 2, the BACCM, the Business Analysis Core Concept Model. There, it's the first time that you find the word holistic or holism in the bubble. And it's also there if you have the different requirement categories. It has the requirement. That's something I find very important. And the requirement categories, you get the business requirements, you get the stakeholder requirements, you get the solution requirements, you get the transition requirements. And since last year, you get also, but it's not in the BAPOC, it's in the BA standard, the sustainability requirements. And I think it's very important that business analyst practitioners are very well aware of those other categories. Those categories, like for example, business requirements, well, step back. Many of the business analysts, they only think if they talk about the requirements, it's almost always about solution requirements, which I find very sad. The BABOK mentioned those 4 categories that I just mentioned already in 2006, which is in the first public version of the BABOK, which was the 1.6. And if you ask an average business analyst, like, do you know the 4 categories in the BABOK? He says they don't know. Oh, the categories? Really? That's strange. They even don't know, and they can't even rephrase it. And another funny thing is, like, so many organizations have a business requirement document, and
And
I
they have
hope,
nothing to do with business level, right? This is what you mean.
yeah. And if you look at the business requirements documents, the requirements that are mentioned are are almost all solution requirements, maybe a few stakeholder requirements, but no business requirements, which is funny. And that's really because business requirements say why you're doing something, and you only get three. It's like the goals and objectives of a big change initiative.
You know,
Okay.
it's funny because the whole story of requirements classification, the different abstraction level, maybe I'm wrong, but the first appearance of the idea was, defined under requirements abstraction model that has something like 30 years. So that's not
Yeah.
a new concept, yeah. And in the area of business analysis, when by definition, we need to deal with the business level and then go to the solution, it should be
Yep.
a kind
Yep.
of obvious, right?
Yeah,
And it's not.
yeah. You got this in the Babok. I think it's also in chapter 2. You got this cycle of the different requirements. First of all, if you are in a change initiative, you first have to ask why, and those are the business requirements. Why are we going to do something? Yeah? And secondly, is it has a circle, it goes to the stakeholder requirements. Like, what do the stakeholders need? Like the translation of those business requirements towards the different stakeholders, which can conflict. Those can conflict, and then it's up to the business to find some compromise. You get those business requirements standing in front of you. So why you're doing it, what do the stakeholders need? And then you go to the solution requirements. How do we make sure that those stakeholders get what they need, and that's solution requirements. It's the how, and then you get the transition requirements. It's like how are we going transition to the transition from before this to be. How do we manage that transition? So it's a circle, and finally you have the transition, and you look at what you got, your life. Okay, now we're going to measure. Do we have to change things? Again, business requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements, transition requirements. It's a whole cycle. It works very well, and it's already there in 2006, and it's already also a holistic aspect. Whereas the BACCM only appeared in 2015 in the version 3 of the Babok. BACCM talking about context, value, solution, stakeholders, change, and context. Context very important. Those 6 core concepts. And it's a very holistic aspect. It defines business analysis. When you go to the definition of the BACM, it's like it's a definition of business analysis. It's a concept, it's a framework, but at the same time, it's a definition. I use it so often in big projects.
And I don't know what is your experience, but my experience is that very often we are, as a BA, let's assume as a BA, we are entering a project that is actually started,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know the whole context, right?
No.
Because there was some decision made before, agreements, whatever. Well, let's assume that the project has some justification, the business justification. Yeah, we are entering a project that is already started. We don't know the context, and my experience is that, and this is, I think, a sad experience, that many of the BAs, they are not even curious.
Yeah.
They just look, okay, what we have right now, what next?
Yeah.
And how to deliver a valuable solution if you don't have the big picture, the context, right?
Yeah, it's something I have been struggling with for a long time, and now I'm a consultant with my current customer. That's okay, but very often the BA, in fact, the BA it's a role created from out of IT. Like project failed, and they said like, I think we don't understand very well the language of the business. So the BA first was an IT guy that could understand very well the language of the business. But meanwhile, we have outgrown that, and my next talk will be how to apply holistic business analysis on strategic level. That you really see, because when you enter a project very often, and that's because people think that the BA is in fact more an IT guy than a business guy, which I disagree with. If I did that, if I arrived at a later stage inside the project, I went back like, okay, but why are we doing this? So I was doing those business requirements and stakeholder requirements to consolidate. Didn't we forget anything? And it was not always appreciated, But if it was not appreciated, I didn't stay too long, because if you don't want to discuss that, how sure are you that you will be doing what the stakeholders or the business wants? But I agree. It's too often that we are cornered in this kind of solution corner, and we have three other requirement categories, now four, meanwhile. So yeah, agreed. First start with stakeholder requirements, business requirements, stakeholder requirements, and then solution requirements. But everyone is looking at those solution requirements.
That's quite interesting, but because even you mentioned the strategic level, yeah?
Yeah.
I can see such situations also at the, let's say, strategy level, that
Oh yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
theory we need to focus, we need to understand the problem, we need to think about different solution. And what is really strange, we are not looking into the problem, we are already defining the solution at the strategic level.
Yeah.
We don't know what we want to achieve, but
Yeah.
we perfectly know how to do it.
Yeah, we first need to understand, like, Einstein said, and you can quote it. Einstein said, if I've got 1 hour to save the world, I will probably use 55 minutes to understand the problem. If I understand the problem well, 5 minutes should be sufficient to get to the solution. Whereas today, BAs are working almost 100% of the time on the solution without often without understanding the problem or the opportunity, which is a positive problem.
And what are the consequences? The consequences are, at least from my point of view, we are working on a solution, we are delivering perfectly working solution that does not solve the problem because we don't know
Exactly.
what is the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically about wasting time, resources, capabilities of organization. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, and that's also the reason when I arrive in a project at the later stage, I'm doing some step back, and if I don't get that time for doing step back, I'm leaving. I can't live if for example you got a big program or a big project and they can't explain you why that program exists, then go away, because or say like, I need to know why, otherwise we can't do that work. We don't have this focus.
It's quite important, and I would say, in order to do it, in order to make the decision that if I don't understand what we are doing and why, then I'm leaving, then I believe you need to have a kind of courage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Agree. I fully agree. Yeah. No, well, you get also some stuff at the knowledge areas. You get the sequence of the knowledge areas. There's also some well thought about, but it's more implicit and it's much more difficult to explain how the holistic aspect has been there. Whereas in the chapter 2 of the Babok, with those concepts, it's much easier. And I use them also in my holistic business analysis talk, the basic one.
At the very beginning, you mentioned something that the holistic view is a kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that there are some specific skills, competencies that should be a part of this mindset? That
Yeah, you get in the Babok the underlying competencies. I remember, and first of all, I would say, like, you get the six big well, you get a number of underlying competencies, and the easiest to acquire, and a lot of people should need, but I have worked in 20 different industries, more than 20 different industries. The easiest one to acquire is the knowledge about the business. That's really easy to acquire. The second easy to acquire is around techniques or technology. The most difficult to acquire are all the rest. For example, for being a BA, holistic or not, you have to be analytic. Being analytic is something you acquire in the first 20 years of your life. Afterwards, it's very difficult to acquire it. If you haven't got it when you're 20, don't become a BA. I don't think it will be a good idea. Okay. but then if you go to more the holistic, and also well, a number of and that's why I think BA and holistic, it should be part of it, because many of those competencies, you have to be a good communicator, a good listener. Right? Communicating and listening is it's one part. A good listener. You have to be able to inspire people. You have to be ethical. You have to be trustworthy, and all those aspects are also important for a holistic mindset. Not the analytical part, maybe not, but for the holistic mindset, holistic BA, those are very important. You have to be ethical. You have to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, empathic. Because if you deal with different stakeholders, you have to understand what they feel, how they think. Yeah, it's very demanding. But I think the BA role, if you do it properly, it is a very demanding role. And some things you can't acquire with a training. Being empathic is something, or trustworthy, it's something that you have or you don't have. It's something you acquire with decades.
Or something you can pretend you have.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because you pointed specifically, let me call it a kind of soft skills, communication, empathy. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's more about behavior, about who you are.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because my feeling is, in order to look at anything from the holistic point of view, you need to have this analytical skill, and you need to perceive the real life and the business as a kind of system existing in a context, and you need to understand how the systems behave, right?
Exactly. And for that, I would introduce other skills or competencies that are not in a box. And first of all, if you want to be holistic, you have to be able to take a step back. If you take a step back, you need to be able to do some abstraction. You have to be good at doing abstraction, which is not it's not in the bubble. Another thing is, if you're involved emotionally, and sometimes a project can touch some emotional parts of you, you also have to be able to detach from your emotions and still. So I would even think mindfulness. You have the mindful BA, Katie Burkich, and I really believe if you want to be a good BA and talk with people and interact with people, that you sometimes have to be able to take a step back, even if you're emotional. Because otherwise, if you're caught up in your own emotions, you will your blind spots will take the upper hand. For example, that's an example. But I think mindfulness would be, and that's something you can learn. It's something you can learn, mindfulness. And if you're more mindful, it will be easy to do some abstraction, and you take a step back. Yeah.
What about, I don't know how to call this skill, competency. What about the ability to, let's say, create a kind of distance? Like I am looking at some system, I mean the business system. I am looking at stakeholders and their needs from a kind of distance. Probably this is related to what you just said, that we shouldn't, well, we are emotional. Yeah, we are, because we are people. Yeah, but our emotions should not drive decisions.
Yes.
Yeah, so I am looking at the organization as a system, and I need to look at this with distance, allowing me to get the information, judge the information, listen to different perspectives, and do not judge the perspective, because I think this is something what we tend to do. We are talking with stakeholders and we are judging them.
Yeah, we got our own blind spots, so that might influence also how you look at things. Everyone has got blind spots. Those who say they don't know what they're talking about. But anyway, but we all get blind spots, and if we get emotional, yeah. And the thing you talk about system thinking, so you have to look at an organization from a system perspective, like for example the context model, which it's one way you look at an organization. If you can detach yourself, it's easier. And that's also why I'm a consultant. I've worked always as an external in an organization for 2-3 years maximum, because otherwise I'll become part of it and I might get more emotional. So my added value as a consultant is only there for the first 2-3 years, because I get more absorbed and get more also emotional about stuff. So if you do a big project, a big program, always invite a few external consultants. You need people from inside who know the business very well, but a few externals that can challenge it without the emotions.
That's a good topic, actually. Because what do you think? Does it mean that if I am a business analyst, that is actually a part of the organization? Does it mean that I'm not able to look at the organization from the holistic point of view?
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. No, it's a good one. Well, on the contrary of what many organizations believe, I believe a business analyst shouldn't be a subject matter expert.
I completely agree.
So a subject matter expert is someone who is a process owner, who is really have done operational work, or as now know everything about it, and a business analyst works very close to a subject matter expert, and he might become a subject matter expert, but that's a hat he should take off when he's a business analyst. He shouldn't do operational stuff. He shouldn't get emotionally attached with the business, because if you do that, then you might endanger your analytical, your business analyst work, because it will be influenced, it will be colored. Yeah.
Because you know the process, so you know how to fix it. Yeah, and probably you don't even start thinking about different possibilities. Is the process really needed, for example?
Those are the blind spots, the cognitive bias. It's always been, and therefore, if I'm so happy that 20 customers, 20 plus customers, really accepted me without knowing anything about their business. I even had one customer doing author rights, so like author rights, if you're an author or even music composer, and so they've got all author rights when it's published or played. And they had their own business house, and they invited an external team of business house that had no connection whatsoever with author rights to do the business analysis, and at the same time challenge their way of thinking and their work, the way of working. I thought that was a very, very smart decision. I would go with a mixed
I have
team.
similar experiences then when entering the organization and looking at the organization from the perspective of external consultant, you can see things that, well, the employees, the people working in the organization, they just don't see it. They are not asking these questions.
We will be better with the 5 whys as external, because we ask for people sometimes the stupid whys. No, it's obvious. Like, okay, it's obvious. Then explain me why you're doing that. And sometimes like,
because we always used to do that.
It's much easier as an external person, if you're detached from the process, to do the 5 whys up till the 5th, and don't stop at the 2nd or maybe the 3rd.
I think that maybe the part of the problem why people are expecting that business analyst will be a domain expert, maybe it is because of the name, business analyst. Perhaps it suggests that you need to know the business area. Which is not exactly what we really need to do, right? Of course, it's good to know more or less about the business, but this is why we have the business and the domain experts.
I think a good BA is a generalist and not a domain specialist.
We discussed some competencies, and what do you think? How the current educational system, sources, standards, courses are covering development of these competences, needn't to look at the system, at the business system from the holistic point of view?
That's a good one. And you're from Poland, I'm from Belgium, and I've got some experience with my partner on the Netherlands, and I've got a few friends in the States and so on. And what I see is that people aren't pushed enough, certainly not until the secondary school, and not even at university. It's knowledge, it's not being critical, and those soft skills are not really nurtured or emphasized, and those things. So the educational systems that I've seen, I haven't seen them all, are missing that non-knowledge aspect, because holistic thinking, holistic mindset, it's not something with knowledge. It's with, like, are you able to look at the big picture and take a step back and not being absorbed? And if you're really on knowledge, people get absorbed by things. So I don't think the education systems that I'm aware of are very good at it. And the interest that I grew on holistic thinking, holistic mindset, has grown throughout my personal life, through my medical experience with doctors and so, but also I've been doing some meditation, Tibetan monastery in Belgium, and I didn't go to Tibet, but that kind of stuff. So that's also from my personal interest. I can't expect anyone doing business hours to have the same personal interest, but I think it's important to be a bit more open-minded, not only on knowledge, but also on mindset. Have a very open and susceptible mindset.
Actually, I have similar experiences that our educational system, well, is teaching us very specific things, sometimes quite technical skills, but it's not providing the ability to look at things from the, let's say, the big picture perspective. Yeah.
But maybe you get those school systems, Montessori, Steiner, maybe they do. But I don't have too much experience with that. Those are marginal, but maybe they do more things that would encourage having a holistic mindset. Maybe.
And what about education and business analysis area? My experience here from Poland is like my personal experience that organizations are a kind of forcing, encouraging people to learn very specific skills like BPMN, like business process modeling,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, writing user stories, something like a pieces of a big part.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. I don't have a feeling that there is a awareness how important it is not to focus on tools, but rather on seeing the big picture, understanding
Yes.
connections.
Yes, it's missing, and well, even even in Belgium, there are not that many high schools or university that have a BA training. Not even, but even the BA trainings that I've seen, that you can follow as a personal, as a private person with you. It's mostly based on techniques and not about the big picture, the mindset. Uh, I agree, it's not always easy that way to teach, but with my holistic business talks, I do try to give the concepts with like take a step back, the different requirement categories, the BACCM and so on and so on. Take focus on those things and how they encourage you to take a holistic approach. So, but no, I agreed. Most of they don't do it. It's mostly based on techniques, and as I said earlier, from on the underlying competencies, it's the second easiest to learn. What is more complicated to learn, the analytical, the real mindset, very difficult. I'm not encouraging people to become a BA because I'm saying it's difficult. It's difficult,
Well,
but you have to be
that brings me to an idea for that. Sometimes people are thinking that being a BA means basically that you can write requirements. Oh, no.
Requirements are a means to an end. It's to co-create this the better business outcomes, as I said earlier, and requirements are a way to get there. Because the requirements are there to express something that can be exchanged and people can read it. It should be tangible, measurable, and so on and so on. But it's only a means to an end.
Yeah, that's not the core activity or goal of business analysis,
No,
right?
no, no.
Okay. And the last question, Stefan. Right now, well, this is my understanding of the situation. Right now, the awareness that the holistic view is important is arising. It is not yet a kind of standard, right? How could you encourage people, organizations to get some interest in this topic? Like which measurable benefits you can get if you will look at organization from holistic point of view? Why it is more important to invest in building this mindset than learning how to write user stories?
Aha. Oh, okay. Well, to be honest, I've been in a position that I was not thinking holistically, and I bumped into the wall with my head so many times as like it hurts. So if you don't do it, you will sooner or later bump with your head in the wall, which many of those bumps you can prevent by thinking holistically. So you can you can you do lose a little bit of time or resources thinking holistically, but you will gain later on in the process by not bumping your head into the wall with things that you could foresee. By thinking holistically, it will optimize your other the requirements more work, the solution requirements, that kind of stuff. If you think holistically from the beginning. So if you think holistically from the beginning, I also explain it in my talk. So you can first take the big picture and then you zoom in. But when you zoom in, and for example, you're looking helicopter view at the village, an African village. And then you see like, okay, this is the guy, the chief of the village, this is the medicine guy, and this is the more technical guy, the construction guy, or women, sorry, person. And only if you want to understand more about the chief of the village, you zoom in, but you still know how you take the context, how people come to the chiefs of the village, and then you can study it. But then you go ahead and study this as long as you know how the chief interacts with the rest of the world, and you can study it and take it as a black box, and you know the interfaces. But sometimes you have to step back, like, okay, did we guarantee the way the chief interacts with the rest of the village? You can do the same with a medicine person, and so on and so on. So you need to get that overview, and sometimes you can do a deep dive, but know, well, how that area, that context, so a subcontext, interacts with the rest of the whole system, and preserve and preserve that interfaces. So it's even thinking distributed systems and so on, but take all the parts in different contexts. I'm using that kind of effort exercise now also with an organization. I'm doing some business architecture exercise with, and try to find the different capabilities, make a context of it and how it interacts with outside the organization, but also with other capabilities inside the organization. It's a fascinating exercise.
So from what you are saying, it seems that the holistic view is especially important when you are working at the strategic level, right? Identification of the
It should
business needs,
start as a
improvement.
strategic way, and if you go more down deep, the more you go into detail, it becomes less important, as long as you know that you preserve the interaction of that part with the rest, what you have seen when you took the helicopter view. So the holistic view is more important the higher you get, but when you get lower and you are working apart and you know how it interfaces, you're taking that holistic view because you always have to see how does the rest of the organization or the system is influenced by what I'm doing here at that part.
You know, the whole time when we are talking about that, I have a feeling that to some extent you can compare the topic to defect prevention. We are investing some time, resources in understanding what is the source of the problem to prevent the problem. And this is for me, this is my understanding,
Yeah,
benefit from holistic view.
yeah,
We are
yeah,
investing a lot of time, let's agree, okay? A lot of time, a lot of resources in understanding the big picture, understanding the dots, connections, the real problems, in order to make smart decisions, not
yeah,
to
yeah.
waste time and money on delivering
Yeah,
useless solutions.
in fact, I would even call it different, and I do call it quite often in my talks. Is like, in fact, you should have an impact analysis mindset. So you're doing something. What's the impact on the whole system or on the other parts of the system? Yeah, I call it sometimes the impact analysis mindset. Each time you do something, what's the impact on the whole system or the other parts of the system?
That's
Yeah,
a kind of obvious, right? In
yeah,
reality, we are focusing on solution without thinking what is the impact of the
yeah.
solution. Yeah, what is the impact of decisions that we are
Yeah,
making?
exactly. And the earlier you take them at the strategic level, the better you guarantee it will be preserved when you go down.
As a summary, if I could try to summarize that, the holistic mindset, not a skill. It's not a skill.
It's a
It's not
mindset.
about,
Yeah,
yes, it's not about learning how to look at the problem from holistic point of view. The mindset. It's a kind of, let me call it tool, helping us to basically reduce the risk of wrong decisions,
Yeah.
helping us to make a reasonable, smart decision how to run the business, how to increase the business.
Yeah.
Can I call it like that?
I think it's more, but I don't think it's easy to express what it is more, but it's certainly that.
Okay, Stefan, thank you very much for the discussion. It was a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope that we can repeat it one day.